today we're going to talk about covering the lob, okay? So this is one that, man, I've seen so many different videos on it, and as an instructor, we're trying to find the best way to teach this. And so what I like to do is I really like to make it very simple and not so complicated, because I feel like the more complicated we make it, I mean, as you move up and as athletic ability is better, mobility is better, there's different ways to handle this. But again, I teach a bunch of beginners and intermediate players, so I try to keep it very simple, and then as a foundational way to start, and then you can build off of that. Once you start having the basics down, then it becomes easier to start adding in the other little nuances and other little, if this is the situation, if that's the situation. So we're just keeping that in mind today as we're talking about covering the lob. So basically, a lot of times what happens is the players are up here at the line, right? And say this team here decides that they're going to hit a lob, right? They're hitting a lob here. This is the lob. And a lot of times what I have is, if this is the player that the lob is going over, that's usually not the player that I'm going to teach to go get the ball. Again, basic level stuff. What I do is I like to have the player that's not being lobbed to go get the ball. And what we do is we like to use the letter C. And there's a reason for that. One reason is if we run straight back here to the ball, say we lose the ball or we don't know exactly where it's going to land, it's real easy to go to the same spot that the ball is going to land. And even though you're back there with the ball, it didn't really help you. The ball is right on top of you, and now you're still scrambling to try to find the right position to be before the ball bounces for the second time, and then the rally's over. So what I do is I teach them to take a C path. What I mean by that is, if this is where the ball is going to land, right, then this is a player that's going to take the C. And what I mean by that is they're going to turn and they're going to go create this letter C, and they're going to come here. So a few things to keep in mind. One is, I try to do the best I can to teach players to not go backwards, to not start backpedaling, to not start moving backwards. I start trying to teach them to open up one way or the other. So the ball is lobbed this way. Obviously, it's easier to open up. Some players to get easier open up inside, and then you're running around that way. That's fine. I find it's easier to open up this way and run. And as you're running, the ball's out here, so you can easier find the ball and work on getting behind the ball, okay? Because we're hitting the ball after the bounce, right? So this is the letter C. This is the C we're talking about. That's the path that we want to take, okay, to get back behind. So then what we're looking at is getting behind the ball. Okay? All right. So you're getting behind the ball there. So we get behind the ball. Very important to don't panic. It's probably the number one thing I see. I should say number two. Number one is the backpedaling. So again, we're trying to get rid of that. We're trying to find a more efficient and safer route to the ball. And number two, we don't want to panic. Okay, so if you panic, then you become a fight and flight mode, and then it's just like you get back there. A lot of times the C players get back there really too soon or too quick, and they're just focused on just hitting the ball back hard. And a lot of times it's not a good shot. A few times it's just a desperation shot that they get. I don't want to say lucky, but the other team doesn't handle it very well. But for the most part, high percentage that you are going to not hit an effective shot back. And that's what's important, right? So that is the letter C. That's the path that we want to take, okay? And again, if this is, let's see here, if this is a player that's getting lobbed, then this is the player that's going to cover the lob. So this is the player that's lobbed, this is the player that's going to cover the lob. And vice versa. If this is the player that's getting lobbed, then this is the player that would go get the lob. Okay, so does that make sense? All right, so we have covered that. So that happens, right? And it seems like when it happens quickly, but the reality is the lob is up in the air, and it takes a longer time to travel, okay? So when we do that, so say this is, again, this is where the lob is going, and it goes over this player's head. What we want is this player to take the C to get behind the ball, right? They're going to get behind the ball, but someone between these two, and a lot of times it's this player, will communicate switch with partner. And what that means is now this player needs to shift over to this. So they need to shift. So now this player shifts over, as this player now has opportunity to drop the ball back. So the partner slides over, and now the partner, so we're going to communicate. We're going to communicate here to here, or from here to here, shift. So this player will shift as this player is going back, okay? And then it's important that even though this player is working on hitting an effective shot, and we'll talk about what that shot looks like in a minute, this player, I like to see them take a few steps backwards, create some space. And if the lob isn't that far, say the lob is up here, I actually like to see the player back up even with their player and form that wall again, okay? But it's okay if they come up here, because the idea is, so this is a partner switch. That's important. That's what we want to talk about. So now the partner shifted over. They've communicated switch. The partner shifted over, and the partner that's shifting is usually the one that's got the ball lobbed over their head. Okay, and so now we're going to talk about low ball. Slow equals a slow ball. And what I mean by that is this player, when I'm teaching, this player is working on dropping this ball back into the no volley zone. Okay, so they're working on hitting a ball into the no volley zone. Here's what I see a lot happen when this is the case. So say this is the ball. This is the bounce. This is where the ball bounces off the ground right here, okay? That's where the ball bounces. After that, this is the first, so then this becomes the first bounce. All right, that's the first bounce. And that being the first bounce, this is the top of the bounce, or the apex of the bounce, okay? I see a lot of players try to hit the ball between this point and this point. So they're trying to hit the ball in this area. And what I like to start teaching players to do is to start working on hitting the ball between here and here, okay? This is ideal. Ideal part of the bounce. Right here. So after it's lost its momentum and it starts dropping, this is actually slower, but because you've waited this long and you've waited for the ball to drop, you're actually giving yourself more time to get your feet set, get in position, get your feet set, and get in a good hitting position or good technique to hit a good drop shot back, right? We start with this on the dinking, we start with this on the third shot drops, like I start teaching you all of these, you know, letting the ball travel, waiting on the ball to start dropping. It's actually a lot more challenging than a lot of players realize until they start practicing it, because no matter how far you stay below, they always rush to hit it at top. But we want to hit it as the drop in the second after the first bounce. We want to hit it after it's hit the apex, starts dropping down. Okay, so that is where we want to try and make contact with the ball here to drop it in here. So that's why I'm saying after that bounce, that becomes a lower ball to hit. It's not at the apex, it's dropping, so we're hitting it on the drop, so it's a low ball. It's also a lot easier to hit a slower ball back. And the more time you give yourself here, the more time you have to get from here back up. Okay, so this player's here, dropping the ball. So he hits the ball back after the apex, which we just talked about. They drop the ball into the no volley zone. And then he should start, or she should start following that ball in, whether they get all the way to the line, or whether they end up getting about halfway before the ball bounces. They should be following it. And this team should be working on getting back together. And then again, when the ball comes back, again, drop it in the no volley zone and work your way all the way back up to the no volley zone on your side. Okay, so that is. There's a lot of little things, details to that, but the big picture is we've got one player getting lobbed, one player taking the C to get to it, the other player shifting and backing up, and turning and taking a few steps. This player's hitting a ball that's after the apex is dropping, is working their way to the line, and then now these two players are working their way through the transition zone to the no volley zone and neutralizing this team again. Okay, so we got the letter C, which is the path that the player that didn't get lobbed, the partner's going to take. They're going to get behind the ball. They're not going to panic. One of the partners is going to communicate switch, which means the partner switch positions. The partner's going to slide over, and then the partner's going to back up a few steps, waiting on the partner back here to take the shot. Low ball equals slow ball. That means we're waiting for the ball to drop past the apex, slow down, and then you can hit a slower shot back, which gives you time to start working your way back to the no volley zone. You're going to follow the ball in after your shot, and then you're going to work your way as a team back to the no volley zone. So that is how we are working on covering the lob at the basic level. Now there's a lot, as you start moving up, there's a lot of things you're going to be able to add to this. The better the athleticism of the team, or one of the players on the team, is going to change that dynamic some, and your pickleball IQ. The pickleball IQ of the team together being able to cover the lob is also going to change some of that as well. But this is very basic that we want to do. We're trying to keep safety in mind. We're trying to keep efficient movement, and then we're also trying to utilize some of the skills that we've learned through the other parts of the game, and hitting what we consider, a drop shot back into the no volley zone. Okay, so I hope that helped you understand better on how to possibly start working with your partners to cover lobs, to make it easier, make it more efficient, and definitely make it safer. Okay, so any questions, comments, please leave them in below the video, especially if you would like to see a video in the future that you want to see us break down on the whiteboard. We'd love to do that for you. We'll even tag you and let you know. Again, Thomas Yellow Eyes with Night Train Pickleball, and today, Whiteboard Wednesday. We'll see you in the next Whiteboard Wednesday.